Okay, here we go. This is Law Enforcement and Me, and this is Carmen Jones. If I sound a little sleepy, it's because at the time I'm recording this, it's 2:45 in the morning, and the first time I tried to do this, I thought I did great. I had finished it, I had posted it, and then when I went to listen to it, it was horrible. It was hideous. So this is a redo. So I apologize if you did download the first one because that's gone. uh, anyway, guys, this is Carmen Jones. The show is called Law Enforcement and Me. It's raw and unscripted. And the reason for that is because I go off on tangents. I get a topic in my head and I go completely off. So, that being said, this is going to be the pre On Patrol Live recap because um, as I was talking to my family over the past weekend and just catching up. They support a lot of the things that I try to do. They support another platform that I do called More Than the Wire. My More Than the Wire platform actually kind of catapulted me into doing this for law enforcement and me. Um, so, okay, long story short, last weekend's episodes of On Patrol Live, we talked about, Deputy, God, what is his name? I had it a minute ago. Deputy Swanger, ladies and gentlemen, it's 2:45 in the morning. Deputy Swanger's that hideous assault that occurred on air in front of the world, that the coward in the forest did that to Deputy Swanger, and I was super super upset about it. And as I went to, have the family gathering and the family's wanting to know what I have going on, guys, I'm doing this podcast. I'm still in the early stages of it, but it's about law enforcement, the community, trying to build a bridge so that we don't have such a divide. And suddenly we went from carefree and hey, what's going on to what the hell are you doing? Now, let me kind of backtrack a little bit. As you guys have heard, I'm from Baltimore, born and raised in Baltimore, lived in Las Vegas for a while. I want to say that after my parents split, I was back and forth to Las Vegas, I know, since 1978. So Las Vegas is my second home. So maybe that might be why I have kind of a twofold way of thinking about things in terms of law enforcement and the community. So, um, on this platform, being a black woman, living in a predominantly black city, and living in Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is definitely a melting pot because you have so many different cultures. Um, and of course, it's a tourist town, so you get people from as far away as Japan and Australia, and you're talking to somebody, and all of a sudden you have no idea what kind of culture it's from. All of these things combined kind of make the melting pot in my heart and my spirit of why I wanted to do this. Now, I did finish school in Baltimore, public school in Baltimore. I did go into the Air Force. Got out of the Air Force because of some things going on. They said that I didn't conform to Air Force standards, and that's great. That was back in the 80s. That's great. I learned a lot. I learned a whole lot. But the conversation that I had with my family was so tense because my family here in Baltimore has had issues with law enforcement. And I didn't really understand until we had that conversation just how palpable things are between the community and the police department. It's supposed to be protect and serve for the community. And as I'm talking to my family and I kind of realize why they feel the way that they do, it's upsetting, it's tension. Even as I'm, reciting this to the microphone right now, my stomach is a little bit in knots because I'm recalling that conversation. And within that conversation, some things came up. One of the things that came up was I decided to do some research about the former mayor and governor for the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland. He was actually a candidate running for president of the United States a few years ago, and that would be Martin O'Malley. Now, Martin O'Malley came from Baltimore, of course, and he came from a side of town that, I think it's nothing but Irish folks down there, and um, the Irish community, they're big on law enforcement, huge on law enforcement. The Italian community in Baltimore, big on law enforcement. You have families, generations of law enforcement in all of these families, and it's not so much on the African American side. I'm going to delve into that to just a little bit. But Martin O'Malley, when I left Baltimore in '99, Martin O'Malley was the mayor of Baltimore City. So as I was talking to my family over the weekend, I did a little cursory Google search just to see, while Martin O'Malley was in office in Baltimore, did he hire criminals as part of a zero tolerance policing policy? Now, the way I understood it was that during this time, as he was mayor, he tried to do the zero tolerance policy thing, um, to try to get, I guess, comrades in arms to, bring the temperature down so that there was not as much crime. But it backfired a little bit, because I know that, when you give some people authority to do some things, they kind of go by the wayside. And so the research showed me that even though they had that zero tolerance policing policy, it led to significant increases in arrests with young people, especially young black men, for the stupidest, most minute offenses. So, of course, the arrests went up. And I guess when they went before the judge and stuff, judges were like, this is stupid. This is minor. Why are you wasting taxpayer dollars with this? So that was something that kind of backfired. And of course, it went back into the streets. So, kids being kids, things become, gray areas, and retaliatory measures come into play. Um, and I think that, after an investigation, there was allegations of civil rights violations when it came to this zero tolerance policy. And it actually reminds me of what New York tried to do several years ago when they did the stop and frisk. The biggest reason why I hated the whole stop and frisk initiative is because it reminded me so much of Trayvon Martin. And I know that with the Trayvon Martin case, the only thing that kid was guilty of was being black with a hoodie on and an Arizona iced tea. That's going to sound so cringeworthy, but this is why I bring that up. A friend of mine also from Cleveland, a friend of mine from Cleveland had a podcast a few years ago, but it was on a comedic side. And the comedy kind of fell by the wayside in the conversation, because it was right after the Trayvon Martin killing. And someone within the panel of that podcast said, you know what? I'm not going to lie. But if I'm walking down the street and I see a young black teenager wearing a hoodie, I feel like I'm about to be part of a crime, or I feel threatened. And that comment struck me so much. And that's what the whole stop and frisk was, because it's become a situation where the cops feel as though that young black men, all they're doing is wearing a certain street style of clothing, are threats. There's no way a 17-year-old kid, a straight A student with an Arizona iced tea, is a threat. There's no way that kids waiting to get on the subway to go from Manhattan to Brooklyn wearing a hoodie are threats. You know, so stop and frisk, zero tolerance policy here in Baltimore. And then there was another scandal with Baltimore Detention Center. And again, I'm only saying that this is from the research that I found. I don't know if it's true. Martin O'Malley decided to hire some folks that, grew up a certain kind of way to be guards at the Baltimore City Detention Center. And Baltimore City Detention Center, from the news article that I looked at, they had people bringing in cell phones, the security guards bringing in cell phones. This one guy who was the head of a major gang who was in lockup was still running the streets running the gangs in the streets, I should say, because of his relationship with the guards. I believe at one time he had two or three of the female guards pregnant at one time. They had cell phones, all of the things that are not supposed to be in there because there was just a lapse. The criminal mindset was there. It didn't go away. The criminal mindset was right there. So instead of him, taking a chance and saying, hey, I'm going to give this kid a chance and I'm going to let them be hired in and they're going to know how the system works. I don't think Martin O'Malley thought that through. This is just my opinion. This is my podcast, so I'm definitely entitled to my opinion. And these are the things that occurred here in Baltimore, up in New York and several other cities within the United States that make it difficult to bridge that divide between law enforcement and the community. So, of course, when I have that conversation with my family, things like that are definitely going to cause my family to pause. I get it. Don't think I don't get it. I definitely get it. So, to talk about another situation, which was kind of similar, I've talked about that I do work in healthcare here in Baltimore. And one of the things that I have to do on my job is I have to meet once a month with what they call quality assurance partners. And so the quality assurance partners basically make sure, is Carmen doing the right thing? Is she verifying HIPAA? Is she, giving full disclosure of what insurance benefits does? Is that happening? So once a month I meet with my quality assurance partner, and my quality assurance partner and I, since I've been there for so long, he's going to ask me, so, you have any questions? No, I don't have any questions. So, hey, Carmen, what else are you doing? Of course, I'm going to promote myself. Shameless self-promotion. That's what I do. Oh, yeah, I'm still doing more than The Wire. Did you read my last article? Well, check this out. I decided to do something new, and now I have a podcast. The podcast is called Law Enforcement and Me, Raw and Unscripted. And what I do is I talk about the things that I see on OPL, and I talk about how the community needs to do more to get involved with what law enforcement does in the city. And I'm going on and I'm rambling, and the phone, the Zoom call just went silent. And I'm like, hello? And the gentleman, Chris, are you there? Are you there? Yeah, Miss Carmen, I'm here. You do know that I'm a black man that grew up in Baltimore, right? Yeah, I do know that, Chris. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing the podcast. So, my look at the police force is probably going to be way different than you as a older black woman walking through Baltimore. Chris, I get where you're coming from, but that's why I have the podcast. Why don't you tell me how you feel, and why don't you tell me why you have such a negative opinion about what you've encountered with law enforcement? Chris wasn't having it. And it was very disappointing and it was very disheartening. So as I was reviewing the things in my head from the conversation with my family and the conversation with my colleague, Chris, at the hospital, I got a little melancholy again because I felt like, am I doing the right thing? I don't know. I cannot tell you if I'm doing the right thing. It bothers me sometimes that because I'm trying to build this platform that I really don't know if I'm on the right path. So of course, what do? I contact my man, Tim, in Vegas, my man who encourages me, the one that's telling me, you know what, you're definitely doing this. This is something that needs to be done. You're the best host for this kind of thing. I needed that encouragement. So I'm telling Tim what's going on, and Tim gave me some food for thought and some profound words. And what he said was, you talk about law enforcement and me, and you wanted to build a bridge between the community and law enforcement, but how can you build a bridge if you're not ready to cross it? Ooh, wow. When I tell you that struck me, it actually took me aback. I actually felt my body just kind of like, whoo. So, to get back on topic, which is, the divide, I definitely get where the family is coming from. I get where Chris is coming from. And it also makes me go back into the things that I say on each and every podcast, and that is the negativity. If you're going to bring negativity into this talking point, then I really don't want you, to do anything. If you want to make a comment in the comment section, I'm not here for that. What I am here for is a resolution. If you want to listen to each other, let's come up with a common ground for a resolution so that we can have a better communication between each other. Now, I do want to talk about something else that I saw on social media just a few days ago, because this is what also made me think about the conversations that I had about why my family and, my colleague felt the way that they felt. Now, there was a police body cam video that I saw on YouTube where the guy pulled over a black man. He had already given the ticket. He had already given the identification back to the black man. But the police officer just wanted to do a little bit more digging. He had no probable cause. There was nothing else that he needed to do. He actually, once he gave the driver the ticket, should have been on his way. I've watched enough On Patrol Live to know that once you've given that ticket and you say drive safely, that's the end of it. Either see you in court or pay the fine, keep it moving. No, this guy was like, I know that there's something else in this car, and I want you to get out of the vehicle so I can search your car. And the driver's looking at his driver's license and he's getting ready to put it back in his wallet. Why would you do that? I don't know. It's just a feeling that I have that something else is in this car. And I need to get you out of this car, and you need to give me permission to look in your car because I know you have some contraband. You have something in this car that's illegal. I want to be able to look in your glove box. I want to look in the back seat, and I definitely want to look in the trunk. The driver's like, what's your probable cause? I don't have a probable cause, but I know something's not right. Something in my gut is telling me that this is not right. And after about 15 minutes of this conversation, the guy in the vehicle says, sure. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and get out. I'm going to get out. And I don't remember where it occurred, but somewhere after the driver got out of the car and the officer got into the driver's seat to start searching this man's vehicle, the revelation that the guy that he stopped was a new sheriff of this town changed the game. Those types of interactions are why my family feels the way that they do. I get that. I also in my signature when as I talk about what my platform is, I also always say there are always going to be rogue cops that try to do things differently than what their job is supposed to be. And I'm going to bring up the guy that killed George Floyd, because I'm not going to talk about that person's name. I don't want to give him any sort of glory. But everybody knows his name, and there has been some, is it, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, is it internal affairs that has gone into that guy's record and found that he has had some questionable interactions. There's been film that I've seen where people say, oh yes, I've dealt with that guy before. He has a legal search and seizure. He's done things that are not by the book. He does things on his own accord and is not of what you're supposed to do when you take the oath to protect and serve. And not only did he do that, but for $20, he took George Floyd's life. All because he was that rogue cop that was on a power trip and just wanted to do things his way. I don't want to pull the race card. I know that some of you that are listening are saying that, the race card was pulled in that, but I'm trying my best not to do that. There's already enough divisiveness in the country right now. I don't want to pull the race card. But people like him are the reason why there's a divide with the community and with law enforcement, and why this platform is so important. Now, there are going to be some programming notes coming up where we're going to have talks about your rights as a person that drives a vehicle, as a person that's walking down the street, as a person that owns a home. Yes, you have rights. And when law enforcement is involved, A lot of times, law enforcement is going to give you a lawful order that you are not going to like, but you need to know what it is that you can and cannot do so that you can have a safe interaction and possibly a positive interaction with law enforcement. I'm going to give an example of something that I saw on patrol recently, where the police officer pulled the young lady over all because her brake light was out. Now, the standardized car nowadays, your brake lights, you have one on, the driver's side of the rear end of the car and the passenger side of the rear end of the car, but you also have a third brake light. Sometimes it's on the top of the window, of the rear window, and sometimes it's on the bottom of the rear window. But if that brake light is out, then that's not a safe. That's a reason for law enforcement to pull you over, because you're not driving your vehicle safely according to what the standards are when you register your vehicle with the Department of Motor Vehicles. So this was all that the whole thing was. Maybe this woman didn't know that that third brake light was out. So he's pulling this woman over. He's trying to introduce himself, but the woman behind the wheel of the car, all she's saying is, "What you stopping me for? What you stopping me for? Because I didn't do anything wrong. Come on, man. Come on, man. Tell me what you stopped me for. Tell me what you stopped me for." He's trying to not only introduce himself, but to even just let her know, "Hey, your brake light is out." But she's just going on and on and on and on. And he's like, "I'm going to let you vent. And then once you finish speaking, then I'll tell you what's going on." Even with him saying that, she's belligerent, belligerent, belligerent. Say what you got to say. Say what you got to say. Because y'all be targeting people. Say what you got to say. Say what you got to say. Honestly, I was exasperated just sitting here on the couch doing my Monday morning quarterbacking. I was exasperated listening to this woman. So finally, after about 5 minutes or so of her just being belligerent, he finally was able to say, "I pulled you over because your brake light was out. That's all I wanted to do." And it's so funny to me because all she had to do was sit back. "Hello, officer, what's the problem?" "I'm Officer so and so and so and so and so. I pulled you over because your brake light is out. Were you aware?" That was the whole interaction. She wasted 5 minutes of her life, my life, the people on TV, the cameraman. She wasted everybody's life because she was on the defensive for no reason whatsoever. People like that tell me, I feel like they're trying to hide something when you're always on the defense. Girl, calm down. She made me get to my Housewives of Bravo TV. Girl, calm down. Please. My goodness. But that divide is why I'm here. Um, I'm, always on the shame of self-promotion. I want to put it out there that if you are law enforcement, I don't care if you are law enforcement with your particular police department, if you work corrections, if you work for a school system, definitely just, shoot me a message. Let's talk about some things. Let's talk about why you do the things that you do, why you chose this career, and what you think could change to make things better when you have interactions with your community. It's really just plain and simple. That's really all that I wanted. A full disclosure, my disclaimer, because I talk about On Patrol Live all the time. Dan Abrams, my hero. Chief Wilson, I keep calling him Chief. Deputy Wilson, and then there's Chief Rizzo. I always want to call Curtis Wilson Chief. He just should be Chief. Get that promotion, Curtis. I know you're listening. Get that promotion so I can call you Chief, and I'm not gonna sit up here and second guess myself. But I can't wait for the day that I meet those guys, have an interaction with them, and actually talk to them as a civilian looking at On Patrol Live. I would love it if they got, some more people on their panel. If they could get TJ Smith here in Baltimore, who used to be spokesperson for the Baltimore City Police Department, if they could get him on that show as a panelist, that would be awesome. Of course, I want Commissioner Ham to be on a show. That was the first person that I interacted with when I moved back to Baltimore and I helped promote his book. So, of course, I definitely want Commissioner Ham on there. They're the people that Tim talked about in a previous episode, that trained him at the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. Those guys would be awesome to be panelists on Patrol Live that could give a perspective that we don't see. And the biggest reason why I'm such a fan of the show is because I'm not a cop, but I want to see what they do. What, television shows do, the police shows that are on television right now, they don't do what On Patrol Live does. I'm looking at real life. I'm not looking at everything that's just rush, 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 rush. I'm looking at the traffic stops. I'm looking at the interaction. I'm looking at the one cop who's having a foot race with the teenager because the one cop used to run track in high school. So they're having a foot race. That's a great interaction because that might bring the temperature down. That's always a great thing. So all of these things aside, this is take 2 of this episode. It is now 3:11 a.m. And I think now that I've done this and I feel like it's a success, I'm going to close out. But I definitely want to say, guys, please help me stay encouraged. And if you feel as though this platform is great, please give me a shout out. I want to know how you feel about it. I see all of the downloads, but I don't see any interactions where people just say, hey, keep up the good work. Hey, it sucks. I don't want to hear that it sucks, but definitely just keep me encouraged. That would help me out a great deal. I'm going to have some special guests coming in soon. Tim Santoro is going to come back when we talk about, the amendments of the Constitution and how they play into law enforcement. And when you get pulled over by the cops, that's going to be a great conversation. We're going to talk about some of the Supreme Court laws that have been around for a while that people kind of take them and abuse them. And that being said, you know what? Hey, guys, let's build this bridge. And once this bridge is built, let's not be afraid to cross it. All right? I took the words from Tim and just kind of, made it my own. But on that note, have a great weekend. I will be back with you for the On Patrol Live recap. Don't be surprised if I post something else between now and then, but I'm looking forward to talking to you again. Have a great night. I'm going to sleep. Take care.